Now with that video of Charles Manson, of course, he's the cult leader who ordered his followers to carry out a series of murders 50 years ago. Been in prison ever since, but this footage, which has never been broadcast before, will be featured in a documentary on ABC tonight. Takes us inside the mind of this killer. Chris Connolly, you're part of this film. You have a preview right now.
Yes, I do. Good morning, George. It's really something. Make no mistake, this is chilling, disturbing material. A narrative presented in documentary form. It's drawn not just from that extraordinary interview that Diane Sawyer did with Manson back in the 90s, but also from one-of-a-kind material in the ABC News archives and new conversations detailing just how Manson manipulated his followers into committing murder most foul.
We have a weird homicide.
Human massacre. 5 were killed. The Tate slayings.
I knew that people would die. I knew that there would be killing.
Yeah, we're ready.
Well, I'm a sound man, I'm a sound recordist, and I was working production for ABC News, and we were headed off for Corcoran Prison to interview this man. The plan was we'd set up the room, and the very last thing to do would be to send me out into the hallway to put a microphone on Charles Manson.
Come on, Charles. Come on, Charles. Right.
And as I'm putting the microphone on, he looks me in the eye and he says, "Where are you from, boy?"
That's a full of guillotine, right?
And the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And I said, I'm from Los Angeles, sir. And he said, Los Angeles. And I've been waiting a long time for a bus to come pick me up and take me on back.
Can you see yourself in there?
I can see myself in there. They don't have mirrors where I'm at.
Oh, really? So you never see yourself?
Well, yeah, they got little funny little things. You get a close look a little bit there. Beard's getting long. How are you doing?
I just can't seem to adjust to your society because no matter what I do is wrong.
If I were interviewing Charlie Manson today, one of the questions I would have for Charlie, because I'm fascinated how he ended up like he did, was start at the beginning, Charlie. Tell me what happened as a kid.
Charles Manson was born on November 11th, 1934.
His mother, Kathleen, gave birth to him when she was 15. His father was a man who left soon afterward.
I am a street child. I'm a runaway little girl at 15 years old out of Kentucky named Kathleen Maddox. And she went to Cincinnati, had a guy named Charlie Manson.
When he's 4 and a half, his mother and his uncle are sent to prison for a botched attempt at armed robbery.
And she went to prison, and I used to visit her in the prison visiting room. The only thing my mother taught me was that everything she said was a lie. And I learned never to believe anyone about anything.
There's a boy in class Charlie doesn't like. And at recess, a bunch of the girls jump this boy and beat him up. The principal steps in. And the girls say, well, Charlie told us to do it. Manson's defense, 6 years old. It wasn't me. They were doing what they wanted to do. You can't blame me for what other people do.
Incidents that took place basically had nothing to do with me personally.
By the time he's 13, he's involved in auto theft and armed robbery.
1944, I went to juvenile hall. I didn't get out till 1954.
But while he's in prison, he hears the Beatles, and they come to represent to Charlie Manson what he wants most: fame, power, women throwing themselves, all the money you could imagine.
Hey, Beatles!
He learned from the pimps. He learned from the Scientologists.
Scientology means knowledge or truth, study of.
Manson used his time in prison to prepare himself to thrive as a criminal after his release.
See, I never realized that people outside are much different than the people inside. People inside, if you lie, you get punched. And when I got out, all your children would come to me because they never had anybody tell them the truth.
So it's this astonishing saga of a heinous crime, but it's also an intense psychological portrait, and not just of Manson, but of his followers, these young middle-class women, runaways in the 1960s, whom he controlled as though they were the fingers on his hand. You'll hear from them too. And you'll hear about Manson's surprising attempts to make it in the music business, and how rejection might have fueled his murderous rage.
Wow, so many layers to that. Almost certain now that Manson's never going to get out of prison, but he's managed to maintain a level of power and fame and that cult following, even though he's been in prison 50 years.
Well, this story lingers in part because he does. In so many ways, we can still see him and be fascinated by the aura of evil and control that he represents. And that's never really gone away. We keep wondering how it could have happened.
How he could have turned into the monster he became. Chris Connolly, thanks very much. 2020 documentary Truth and Lies, The Family Manson airs tonight at 9, 8 Central, right here on ABC.